I didn't think about it enough. My core sentence, it isn't a sentence. It's what I was saying in the beginning. It's a feeling. It's just a feeling.
When you listen to him talking, he does refer back to a thought as literally a sentence. That is what he means. It is a sentence, as far as I've understood what he's saying. Because
Yeah.
when some
Yeah.
people think, like we work with people that have worst case scenario thinking, what's the
Yeah.
worst case scenario? Pretty much that is what he's talking about. The thought that you've got running through your mind, that he's added the term core sentence.
Well, what I took from it was because I'm still listening to the book now. So I'm getting that, yes, you have the core feeling, the core paragraph, if you, but ultimately you can take it down and down and down to one thing, and it's your biggest fear. So I worked with the client, and I know the core sentence, and we even talked about it because you'd recommended the book. But the core sentence was, "I'm afraid to be left alone."
Yes.
Even down to, like, as they're getting older, down to being left alone because the loved ones are dying.
When I was really young, about 15, 16, I used to go up to Hull. We used to thumb it up to Hull with my friend. And so we was in Hull, we stole some we stole some LSD, and all took it. And my
Sorry,
two
Kate. Sorry, Kate. Hold on a minute. How do you steal LSD? Was it just
oh
a random drug dealer around that's left their
no,
LSD
it
around
was
about?
my
What?
friend was going out with this dealer and he had LSD. So she took the LSD and we all took it. And then they were all looking for us. It was all really scary. And my two friends, we was in this flat looking out the window. And my two friends saw these kids on bikes and they said, "Oh, we could get the bikes and go back to Southend." We was in Hull, and so then that really freaked me out. I was like, "Don't leave me behind." I was really panicking. Didn't care about who was going to find us, getting away or anything else. I was like, "Don't leave me behind," because that's my core sentence. Don't leave me behind.
The absolute terror of being left behind. Was it a terror feeling?
Yeah, yeah. Like we was all a bit scared and we was all tripping anyway. But yeah, but that was it. That was the real thing that tipped me over the edge. Like they might leave. And then there was like, we're only joking. It's
It's
silly.
fear of abandonment, though, isn't it?
Fear of abandonment. Yeah.
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 And thinking about that sort of, as you were saying, Sharon, that keep going and keep going and keep going. It's like it's that working in a CBT way, isn't it? They call drilling down. So you say, and then
Yes.
what? And then,
And
and then, and
then
then people say, well, this would happen, and then this would happen, and then what would happen if that happened? Then this would happen, and then eventually you get to the last thing, which is the core sentence, isn't it? It's the
yeah.
final belief, the feeling,
Yeah.
the deep underneath it all, what is actually bothering you.
Yeah, that core. So it is a core belief, isn't it?
I think
It's
it
a
is, but it's not a
core
core belief.
belief.
It's more than a belief. Sorry, Sharon.
It's taking it down and down. So it's, yeah, the big belief, the whole, but take it down, and it's your biggest ultimate fear. Like you said, it froze UK. It's like, oh no, I'm left alone. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's the biggest fear.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's not really from me. That's from intergenerational.
Inherited.
Yeah, inherited. Yeah, perhaps from my dad being in church. That's what I was trying to. Yeah.
This idea of inherited, because Gabor Mate doesn't think that ADHD is inherited.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think ADHD is inherited when you bear in mind this trauma that you could inherit?
Yeah, because that kind of trauma changes the way your brain works. And so it's in a way it is inherited because the last generation's brain patterns were different and
Exactly.
they had that trauma there. And
Yeah.
so they've made your brain patterns. This is how I understand it. Then you get those genes and the same brain patterns because that's all their feelings of trauma and abandonment and everything else get passed on.
He doesn't believe it's inherited or genetic as such, I guess, but he does believe it can be caused and that it's nature as well. So, yeah, if Gabor Mate doesn't believe that it's inherited, he does believe that it is in your nature as well as your as nurture, doesn't he? And therefore, if we now uncovered and been looking at stuff that says that factually we do inherit trauma and take on our parents' stuff and angst, then maybe it sort of ties in that we would inherit some ADHD tendencies as well.
Doesn't that make perfect sense? But sounds like he's adamant that it's not hereditary. You
Right.
don't inherit it, but at the same time he's saying there's intergenerational trauma. So it is a little bit confusing.
Yeah, he says that he
Yeah.
talks about intergenerational trauma, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So he knows, or he believes that's inherited and that's passed on. So I personally think it's a bit of
Try
both.
that.
The more sensitive you are, the more you're going to
Yes.
feel. The more you feel, the more bad stuff happens, the more pain you're going to be in, and the more compensating you're going to have to do. At the same time, with those same genes, if you treat it well and you grow up in a healthy environment, you'll just be creative and happy and joyful and a leader and an artist or a shaman or a very creative CEO or whatever you're going to be. So the genes don't determine. They make you more sensitive to their environment. Now, if you go back to what I said about the tuning out, it's simply a defense.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So what he's saying is you inherit being a sensitive person. But depending on your environment that you're brought up in, you can be the same set of genes can be developed to be a happy, confident, secure person. And depending on a toxic environment or dysfunctional or trauma, those same genes can turn into someone riddled with ADHD.
Makes perfect sense.
It's easy when you know how, isn't it?
That does make sense, doesn't it?
Okay, let me try again.
So the more sensitive you are, and the stress in the environment, the more you're going to feel the stress, the more you're going to need to escape from it by tuning out. So you didn't inherit ADHD, you inherited a sensitivity that makes it more likely under stressful circumstances that you revert to tuning out when your brain is developing, which, by the way, is an organ that develops physiologically under the impact of the emotional environment.
We said it all. He says it so well. This is the trouble, isn't it? We can't improve on anything he says.
He says, yeah, he does articulate it really well. But it does make sense in that you're a sensitive person because you've inherited those genes, and then when you have to tune out because you can't tolerate the environment, that's when the ADHD develops.
Thank you, Kay.
He had a stressed early for years. His parents were stressed. So deal with that. Deal with what conditions are you creating now in your life that create more stress for you. Are you taking care of your body? Are you exercising? Are you eating well? Do you get out there in nature? So are you doing all these things? If you're not, all you're doing is medicating a symptom. If you are taking the medication specifically to help you focus, but you're working on these other issues, you'll have a much fuller life and you may find you don't need the medication after this.
For people who can manage their life and put themselves in a calm environment and do all the right things like exercising and nature and do all the self-care, they might not need the medication forever.
To me, that makes sense. But I think it's like a level, like with so many things, there's this spectrum, isn't there? And if you're here on the spectrum, yes, maybe you can manage it with exercise, a good diet, but if you're over there on the spectrum, maybe you need a bit of help always as well.
Yeah. What about you, Kay? What do you think?
Yeah, I guess what Sharon said is about right. It depends if you're like right at the end of the spectrum, and you've got maybe on the spectrum for autism, ADHD, dyslexia, so your brain is very ND, neurodiverse, then it might be less likely that you can manage those symptoms.
And also, it's probably less likely you're going to be in an environment where you have access to all the privilege of being able to exercise, eat well, sleep well. You're more likely, isn't that the case, to have been brought up in a dysfunctional environment? It's more likely to lead you to be living in an environment where you're surrounded by noise or disturbance, or, you know, you can't easily tick those boxes of looking after yourself. So it's possible that you might need the medication more often, more than people who are able to do that, right?
Yeah.
PhD?
Yeah, what is it exactly? Is it real?
Oh, it's real. What is it? This is not a disease and it's not heritable. So tuning out is not a disease. So let me ask you a question, if I may.
Okay.
If I were to stress you right now, create stress, emotional difficulty or tension for you right now, what would be your options of dealing with that? Of dealing with me? What would be your options?
I could either get upset or I could leave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could fight back, flight or fight, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But what if you didn't have those options?
Then you're stuck.
And now what does the brain do when you're stuck like that?
Gets distracted.
It gets tunes out.
Yeah, it tunes out. You want to do other things, think about other things.
In other words, it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
That was Joe Rogan. In case you didn't recognise him, that was Gabor Mate on Joe Rogan. I mean, he has done the rounds recently. He's been on the huge big podcasts, hasn't he?
Yeah, everything we've seen so far makes perfect sense.
The part that is interesting is tuning out. So we learn to tune out, disassociate, I guess, because we're stuck in that environment that's traumatic. And so then we do it automatically.
Even when we're not in a trauma, when we're not facing trauma, like when we're sitting at school and we can't get out of a really, really boring lesson, we're just daydreaming the day away. Couldn't tell you what happened in German at 2:30. No.
Exactly. Because I always think it's a skill. The child develops a skill to tune out or disassociate. So then it becomes like something you do all the time.
I've taken medication myself for ADHD, and it helped me focus. It helped me write my first book. I didn't take it for this one. As a matter of fact, more recently, when I was beginning to write the medication, I thought maybe I would take a bit of stimulant like I used to, and just to see if it helps me write the book better. All it did is give me side effects. My brain has changed. I don't need it anymore.
I'm thinking of my friend there. He's in his 30s and he got the diagnosis of ADHD in his 30s.
Yeah.
He's been given this medication, which he presumably has to take for life. He's told me the medication has helped him focus.
Has helped him focus.
Has helped him focus. Yeah, it's been a game changer, Steve, you know.
I would say to your friend, if the medication is helping you right now and it's not causing you side effects, I got nothing against it. You might want to give it a break. You might want to use it for when you're having to work or having to, really concentrate, but it's up to you. If it helps you function, take it.
This business about medication and stimulants, have either of you two ever had illegal stimulants or stimulants that have altered your brain chemistry?
I have. The first time I took a stimulant, I just felt like, oh, this is, and I actually said it to my friend, I remember it, and I said, this is how everyone should feel all the time. And actually, it's quite sad because probably everyone did feel like that all the time. It's just that then I felt kind of in control and yeah, confident, I suppose, and not overwhelmed by anything. So immediately I felt like it was helping me. And I always ask my clients, have they ever taken, I ask that question that you've asked, because I always feel like if they have and it has helped them, then the medication will probably help them. Although, like, in an addiction sense, you'd get in a pickle with it because you take too much and take it all the time and it isn't monitored. But now they do as well have ADHD medication that isn't a stimulant.
Do they?
for people who are addicted, because some people then abuse the medication if they're really addicted to a stimulant.
I didn't know that. What other medication is there apart from stimulant?
I don't know, but I know one of my clients has got is taking medication that isn't a stimulant.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there anything now that you use like a stimulant, like coffee?
I'm very good. I don't like caffeine actually. So I don't like too much caffeine. So I have a bit of a ritual in the morning. I have one coffee where I grind the beans and do fresh coffee and have that, and then I have tea. But I mean, it's still tea's got caffeine in it as well.
It has, yeah. So do you notice it when you don't have the caffeine? What does it do to you, the coffee? Does it calm you down or perk you up, or what happens?
To be fair, because today I can't have any caffeine. Funnily enough, I'm having a test tomorrow at hospital and I can't have any caffeine today. And in my head, I keep thinking, oh, I really would like a coffee. Not that I drink coffee all the time, and I haven't had coffee, or I've been careful with the caffeine because they can't do the test if I have caffeine. So
Shows you how
yeah.
powerful caffeine is, doesn't it? What effect does caffeine have on you?
I drink loads of coffee and always have, and I can't say I notice much. I get a headache if I haven't had it for some reason. As far as stimulants as well, I think in the past I've only ever liked things that, like you said, give you confidence and more control. Don't like being out of control, which I suppose is a weakness, or just, well,
Sensible,
it is
Sharon.
just
Sensible.
something of mine. Yeah, yeah.
When you know the Red Bull drinks and the very strong caffeine shots you can get, if I have them, they make me wired. I like a bit shaky and like my jaws are clenched, and yeah, I don't work well with caffeine, I think.
No, see, I've had the same trouble as you, Sharon. If I don't have caffeine, I have a headache. But it takes me 3 days to get over that. And I know how long it takes. I know. And I regularly, I give it up and I stop doing it. And then I have decaf and I'm really good for a bit. And then I go relapse and I go back onto my caffeine. But it does feel like an addiction. It does feel like a drug 'cause it's very powerful. And I know that it perks me up. It does. But then if I have too much of it, like you, I can feel faint and wired and lightheaded. And I have to literally have something to eat because it really affects me.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sensitive to it, I guess.
So for my daughter will say, let me make you an espresso or something. Wake you up a bit. It makes no difference. I
Okay.
can sleep with coffee, but I do, for health reasons, because I know it's not good for me, alternate it between decaf and proper and decaf, and yeah.
Actually, because I'm doing this test, even the decaf coffee has got caffeine in it. Because they told me that. So you can't have decaf because it's still got caffeine in it.
Ooh. Oh,
So I think you both have got a tolerance to caffeine, and I haven't got it. I don't think I've drink that much tea, but tea's got caffeine
see,
in
I
it.
used to be terribly addicted to tea. I couldn't leave the house without 3 cups of tea with 2 sugars in each of them before 8 o'clock in the morning. I know, terrible, really, drink it all day long.
Yeah.
So now I try and, I'm trying to give up all my addictions, honestly. That has been sort of a path that I've been on. And that coffee is one I've picked up in the last 10 years because I never used to drink coffee, I used to drink tea. So I've picked up this addiction.
Why are you trying to give up the addictions?
But that's an interesting question, Sharon. In the light of a pandemic, or if we can't get hold of the coffee, what I'm going to do, I want to be free to be able to face the next pandemic without a panic of where's the sugar coming from, where's the coffee coming from? Where am I going to get my, whatever it is, giant bars of Aero for Friday night? Where am I going to get that from if there's nothing available in the shops? Again, back to the scarcity mentality. And well, when there's nothing, you've got to be able to cope and be capable without having to go through a headache for 3 days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's logical, but it's underlying that is just the fear of something terrible happening, isn't it? And it might. We've already been through it once. Nothing to say we're not going to happen
I
again.
wonder if that is something to do with your court sentence. If we could narrow it down,
Bound to be.
whether it would be.
I'm sure being able to cope in a crisis and always having to be ready in case there's like the worst disaster to hit possible. I don't want to be going through caffeine withdrawal as well. But I'm sure that started in the pandemic. With all that we all went through in the pandemic, the fear of that actual reality. That's the closest we've got to dystopian ending. Like all of the horror movies I've ever watched always have a dystopian ending. And then the pandemic happened and it was real, wasn't it? It became real.
Yeah.
Let me show you another clip.
Okay.
Are you ready?
So trauma is not just personal, it's also cultural and it's historical and it's also transgenerational. And we just can't help passing it on. So if I carry trauma, I can be sure to pass it on to my kids unless I've resolved it, worked it out. And to the extent that I've resolved it, I don't pass it on. And to the extent that I haven't resolved it, we do pass it on. And now if you look at the larger question of why are so many kids being diagnosed, well, you know it can't be a genetic problem because genes don't change in a population over 5 years or 10 years. So if you're seeing much more ADHD in Norway now, there's a good reason for it. And the reason is that must be, and I don't know much about Norway, but the reason must be that the parenting environment is less and less comfortable for kids. The parents are more and more stressed.
Parents are more stressed, yeah. And then see, that doesn't make any sense to me. What he said at the beginning there, this idea that if you sort your own trauma out, then you won't be passing it on to your kids, but you will, because you haven't got a lot of control over what your brain is doing ADHD wise. You can't sort of heal that completely, can you? So is he talking about you're passing on the trauma that's that inherent feeling on the inside, or is he talking about the ADHD? Because you're still going to be passing it on to the next generation, aren't you?
So going back to the book, It Didn't Start With You, there are certain, obviously, traumas that are inherited that we have no idea about. But I'm guessing he's referring to, I don't know, say growing up and his dad coming home from war and him being aware of that and the effect it had on him. And unless you work through that, you'll pass it on to your children. I don't know, you might be cold with them or maybe
tough one, isn't it? Tough one. Because by the time people, I mean, that's a generalisation, but by the time most people realise that they've got trauma or they've been traumatised some way, they've already got the children. So they've already passed it
on. Yeah, I think so. So unless you kind of do a lot of work on yourself when you're very young before you have children, and maybe the raising the awareness of it does help. I do totally believe that if you have unresolved trauma, you do pass it on. However much you try not to pass it on, you can pass it on without knowing.
Yeah, unwittingly, you wouldn't do it on purpose, would you?
You wouldn't do it on purpose.
No, you haven't got a lot of control over it.
And you know what you didn't like as a child. So people think, oh, I know what I didn't like. I'm going to do the opposite to that. I'm going to really love and care for my children because I felt unloved and uncared for. And then they think they're not passing it on, but they'll pass it on in a different way that they haven't noticed, because it's having the awareness around it. It's actually having the awareness around it so that you can do as much loving and like caring for your children as anything, but you can still pass on the trauma because you haven't resolved your own trauma.
Yeah, and do you think there's something about resolving not just your trauma, but the trauma of previous generations? You know, that idea of healing the past trauma, which you don't even know what it is.
I think it's, yeah, I think it's like a jigsaw, and I just think there's all the different pieces. If you made a jigsaw of a person, you could fit all the different pieces in and at the end get a whole entire person.
For me, the need is to tune out.
No, that's not the need. What is the need for tuning out, serving your life?
Oh boy.
Scrolling out is
I have no joy, play, or relaxation.
Okay, so you don't know how to, you're not comfortable with yourself. You need to, you can't just be, you have to be doing, and your attention has to be external.
Yeah.
But that goes back to early childhood. It means that you weren't comfortable, and you developed that comfort with the self. You developed that sense of your own goodness and validity. And so that when you're alone and you're not doing something, there's distress, and your mind is going all over the place.
Yeah.
That's the need that it's serving. So then you say, well, it's meeting this need to escape from myself. How can I learn to be with myself? What techniques? What could I do? I have many suggestions in my books, but essentially it's recognizing the need that's being met, not invalidating the need, validating the need, but recognizing that the behavior itself only temporarily soothes it, but it doesn't meet the need.
Can either of you two remember that feeling where you don't want to be on your own with yourself? That feeling that says, I've got to tune out or I've got to be busy. Those are my two options, because I don't know how to feel comfortable in my skin. I don't know how to feel comfortable with myself. Can you remember that feeling? I can remember that feeling. I can remember that feeling distinctly.
Can you? Because I know there have been moments, but I can't think. There must have been moments. Everyone feels that sometimes, but I can't think of an example. But you can?
Yeah, I can remember feeling, it was a Sunday night specifically, I can remember it. And I've got snapshots in my mind of remembering times when I would pick up the phone desperate to be with another person and desperate to getting someone to come out and do something with me, because I just did not want to be on my own. And I had no idea there was anything wrong with that. And I would, Sunday night, come on, we're going out down the pub, let's go. And everyone else was like, no, we've got to go to work tomorrow. What are you doing? I'm like, well, what do you mean you're going to work tomorrow? And it doesn't mean we can't go out tonight, because I didn't want to sit indoors and have a nice, cosy time with myself, or self-care, or reading, or meditating, or healing. None of that was on my radar. What was on my radar was a week ahead of work, grind, unhappiness, searching for happiness, usually drinking or smoking weed or something that wasn't good for me, like when I was in my 20s, and trying to involve other people in that, because the essential element of that was another person, and it wouldn't really matter who it was, as long as it was someone that I knew that would come along for the ride. And so I can remember feeling that, and getting through that meant having to sit with it and feel uncomfortable and recognise that, okay, if you sit with this long enough, this feeling goes, and you can start to feel better about who you are and what you're doing, and starting to notice, oh, hold on, pattern forming here, what's going on, you know. But I can remember distinctly that uncomfortable feeling, thinking doing stuff on the outside is going to make me feel better. Never did.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think I really sat on my own very much. And if I did, I was probably using some sort of substance, because then you're never on your own, because it's always going to be there for you, and you can tune out with it.
Yeah.
Parenting has become far more complex and difficult than nature intended it. There's a lot of research and literature on how Aboriginal tribal peoples parent their kids, much more healthy ways than we do today. And these people, they hold their kids all the time. They don't put them down to sleep in a different room. They don't let them cry. Not that they forbid them to cry. The child doesn't have to cry to be picked up, because the parents are with them all the time. And they don't judge, and they don't berate, they don't punish their kids. And these kids grow up with an innate sense of their own goodness and their own wholeness. The parenting task is not forced upon isolated individual parents who both have to go to work and not see their kids the whole day. The kids are with the parents the whole day, and not just with their parents, other adults, other parenting figures. You know, it takes a village, as the African saying goes. The kids who grow up like that, they have a sense of their goodness, confidence in their bodies, connection to their environment, and a very positive sense of themselves.
Parenting 2025, I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? I feel sorry for parents nowadays with the challenges they have to put up with all the social media and TikTok. She says, having a TikTok account, I'm guilty of encouraging that machine.
I feel sorry for the parents, but I feel sorry for the children as well, because I think because of the way we've been educated, for want of a better word, but we believe, oh, it's okay if we work full time and have the career of our dreams and then go to the gym and see our friends, and our children can go to childcare when they finish school because they've been looked after. It's okay. And then so many children have so many different traumas and so many different things that we're becoming aware of now, different disorders, or yeah, maybe it's because we're not able to be there for them the same.
It's so hard, isn't it? And parents often have to make such difficult choices with the cost of bringing a child up against the balance of working to pay for the child, and they haven't got a choice, and then they feel terribly guilty and are overcompensating on whatever it is that's going on indoors to help them to feel better about what's happening, which they don't feel they've got a choice about because of the financial situation of it all.
Not many parents can, or only have one parent working, the other parent can be there with the child all the time. That's quite a privilege, I think, in this day and age. So both parents usually have to work and then juggle the childcare and whatever else. So I don't know how that would work.
And I think it's so much harder with the Universal Credit and the DWP. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, what, 10 years ago, possibly 15, when they did that 2-child rule. So people that had more than 2 children weren't getting their child benefit, which is only 20 quid a week, but they stopped people from getting 20 quid a week to help with the children. And then they brought in those measures where mums who are at home also had to look for a job full time. You know, so if your child reached school age, that's it, you're going out to work full time. There was no grace at all. And I think that's very, very short sighted, because people like to pick on single mothers or single fathers, don't they, for some reason? Perhaps they're an easy target. As to sort of, you know, we're going to judge you. And so because you're in that position, we're going to hold you up as an example. And I think it's almost impossible. It's impossible. It's bad enough what the DWP, just get on my soapbox for a minute. It's bad enough what the DWP do to people who are genuinely looking for a job and can't find work. But to do that to parents of small children and single parents, I think it's outrageous that they were allowed to even introduce those policies.
Society has become so screwed up and such a mess because, Kay or yourself said, yes, things are so desperate for some. They have to work all the hours and they have to, scrimp and scrape. And then those that don't are made to pay in other ways. Somehow, the children lose out, the families lose out. But we've also been given the message that, oh, well, okay, if you can do that and you are okay financially, then you also deserve to have this, that, and the other. And it's just also messed up, rather than the priority being, let's all be together.
That just wasn't factored in, was it?
No. I don't know if it works that if you are working, but you do have a lot of quality time with the children as well, that kind of compensates.
That's an ideal scenario, being able to work part-time, spend time with the children, everyone's happy, right? But that's
Yeah.
not what's happening, is it?
No, I
Two
know
people
it's
are having to
not.
work full-time and
Yeah,
juggling the finances for what? You know, all they're doing is putting children in
yeah.
childcare to cover the cost of that. Because if they don't do it, they'll be dragged into the job centre to explain why they're not working.
It's
Exactly.
quite interesting what Gabor Mate said on that clip, though, that their children don't need any discipline. They don't need so many of the things that we see as almost normal to raise a child correctly. You do this, that, and the other. But they're saying, okay, the whole village raises them, obviously, and that their children are with their parents all the time. So they don't need to be disciplined or punished.
And there's also the idea of the sort of culture that they're being raised in as well. We haven't got the culture here, have we, that suggests that you can call on neighbours or other parents, or it just doesn't exist unless the individual has gone out and created it for themselves. It's not all automatically set up in society, is it?
And it doesn't necessarily work like that if the grandparents are there, like the idea of a village, so the grandparents do the childcare, but it doesn't always work out because there might be other traumas in the environment as well.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it doesn't always work out. It gives the child a better chance, I think. And I don't think he was saying don't punish, because I do believe children need boundaries, but they need to know what the boundaries are and that they can't push through those boundaries. Because if there's no boundaries, it's kind of unsafe for the child. Counsel children, adults like that they didn't have any boundaries, but then they kind of, that's the thing they really value as an adult, is that they can have got their own boundaries. So yeah, it's a minefield, isn't it? Ideally, if you was there all the time for your child, but even then, one parent's got to go to work. If you're a two-parent family and you've got that luxury, and one parent goes to work and the other parent has the luxury of looking after the child, even then, it's not, it's not foolproof. You're not.
Even then, it's two parents, and no parent will think their child is, no parent will think what their child does is the same. We won't look at it and think, oh, well, that's really good. But actually, your partner thinks, well, actually, it's not that good. It's no two people are the same.
That's true. That is true, isn't it? I don't think we can escape those family dynamics, no matter how hard we try. Thank you ever so much, you too. Okay, Sharon, we forgot to say hello, and then you forgot for us to say goodbye then, because we didn't do our intro. But I'll try and remember next time. It's been wonderful having you both here. I'm going to say goodbye, if we can say goodbye to everyone. And if anyone wants to contact Sharon Hallwood or Kay Curran or me, Tamsin Blake, all the links are in the description. Please do click like, send us a comment if you've got anything to say about anything we've said. And if you can subscribe, that would be great. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.